everybody. I'm going to be talking about the lunar eclipse in Taurus and what it all means, what is happening. We're diving into the whole thing. The lunar eclipse is going to happen on May 5th, okay, a couple days from now. So May 5th is when we're going to basically continue this eclipse sandwich that I've talked about before. And what's happening right now is that we're finishing up a really big story in our life. And in particular, this will have to do now with the Scorpio and Taurus axis. Now, if you are new to astrology, we are currently still in a particular theme, and that has to do with Taurus and Scorpio. It has to do with boundaries and building, okay? Creation and trusting. These are some of the overall kind of themes that we're taking a look at right now. The moon in Scorpio is a time where we are going to be processing boundaries. Whenever we have a moon in Scorpio, we can think of a deeper level of processing our emotions. And oftentimes these emotions have to do with a couple of different themes. I'm going to throw some at you so that you can see if some of these themes are coming up for you, okay? Whenever there is Scorpio, we can definitely take a look at boundary issues. We can take a look at something that feels dark in our life, something where we are focusing on a particular subject that could be bringing up pain, not physical pain, but pain in the sense of a situation that holds some kind of abuse or some kind of power in our life. If it's not this intense, then at the very minimum level, at the very basic level, this can be a trust issue that you either have from yourself, with yourself, or that you have with another person. We are processing these types of themes, okay? Trust, boundary, an abuse of some sort, all right? Abuse of power. This can come up, especially because this moon is taking a look at Taurus. Taurus can deal with power. What kind of power? Power with money, power with creation, something that you have built, or something that somebody else has built that was overpowering you. These are the types of themes that you could be taking a look at. Lunar eclipses are times where we are most likely cutting something out of our life, or something in our life is coming to an end. It's coming to an end for a purpose. It's a layer of our life that is coming to an end. It is a time where we are to let go. Oftentimes, this lunar eclipse or any kind of lunar eclipses will bring this letting go to us in a way where it's not a surprise. But this particular lunar eclipse is going to be, for some of you out there, it's going to be a surprise. Some circumstance that might come up where you're going to start to realize that you have no other choice. This is sort of a fated event, especially if you have heavy fixed placements in your chart. What does that mean? If you have heavy Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, or Leo placements in your chart, something could be happening over the next 2 months and could be unfolding where you are now going to, in a way, be confronted so much to the point where you have no other choice but to let it go. That is usually something that comes with a fixed, sign lunar eclipse anyway. If you've been holding on to something in your life, afraid to let it go, and I want you to think about this right now. Is there something in your life that you're afraid to let go? Perhaps you are afraid to let go of a story. Perhaps you are afraid to let go of a particular subject, a particular relationship, maybe an addiction, because Scorpio can also bring out attachments that are not healthy. both Scorpio and Taurus. The signs always work together. Nothing is separate. It always connects. So we are taking a look at a time where we are going to take a look at some kind of attachment here that we have to process. We're going to be processing it with this lunar eclipse now. All this time up until now, because of the Aries energy, the solar eclipse that has initiated, Jupiter being in Aries, us, being in this Taurus season now, we have been strong. We've been, putting our foot down. We've been keeping things moving forward. But now we get a little window here, an opportunity for us to dive deeper into what we haven't processed. And Scorpio is a sign that processes something at a very truthful level. Okay, it's a deeply penetrating thing. It's not something that is going to be sugar-coated. Let's just say that. All right? It's a confrontational lunar eclipse that we're having. It is happening on May 5th, but the impacts of it will move beyond May 5th because we're going to have to deal with the changes and the letting go and also the grieving over particular situations in our life that will be unfolding or are in the midst of unfolding, where we have to let go of a version of our identity, because it also connects to the solar eclipse in Aries, which is our identity that we have been investing into. We've been trying to make this thing in our life real, Taurus season. We've been working and bringing strategies and rethinking it, but now it's getting real. Now what we're working on is so real, we got to move towards it. We are going to be in this phase right now where we might, starting Friday into the weekend, we start to realize that change is here. It's confrontational. It's something we now have to process. We may even have to go a little bit inward in order to process it. So I highly recommend that if anything comes up for many of you, try to give yourself the time and a day and a space to, protect yourself and to process whatever is coming up, especially over the next 5 to 6 days or so. Solar eclipse is at 14 degrees. 14 degrees is a degree that lets us know that there is going to be information that comes up that is going to be communicated via email, text messages. There's some kind of piece of information that is so important here that changes what belongs in your heart, and what does not. So 14 has a lot to do with a time in our life where we are going to change our mind. 14 has a lot to do with our mind. And what's happening right now anyway is that we are in this Mercury retrograde phase. And this Mercury retrograde in Taurus is a very deliberate Mercury retrograde in Taurus that wants a particular outcome. It wants a particular money goal. It wants a particular power goal. It wants a particular creation, a particular building. Depends on where it's in your chart. You want to apply this information, if you know your rising sign, to where it is in your chart. We are rethinking what it is that we want. We're trying to claim our spot in this area, and we're rethinking it. And this lunar eclipse is adding a confrontational piece into the story. Why is it confrontational? Because this particular fixed lunar eclipse will not feel easy. fixed signs come with a stance. They come with a groundedness. They come, especially Scorpio, it is a truth, confrontational piece of information that will change the way in which you feel in your heart, in your mind, and what course you're going to take, what path you're going to take, what next step you're going to take, what goals are actually worthy pursuing. Now, what also ties into all of that is current fears that we're working out. And the fears have a lot to do with the fact that we have been thinking all this time that there's not enough for what it is that we want, or that we are going to not be able to accomplish what it is that we want because somebody else is already doing it. And there is sort of a piece here that has to do with who can have power, who cannot have power. You might find that in relationship dynamics right now, we're working out some power struggles. We're working out like this idea that only one person can be in a place where they can feel empowered or have the things that they want, and that we all have to struggle if that one person gets it. This is another aspect of the fear that we're working out right now. Because perhaps if you think about it, up until this point, where in your life do you feel most stuck? And this is what Taurus is pointing out. Taurus is a brilliant sign for staying grounded and working things out and building things. But it's also pointing out during this lunar eclipse, this Scorpio lunar eclipse is taking a look at this Taurus sun, and it's saying, hey, you're stuck. You have to switch things up. This is not the way. Do you want to stay in misery? Do you want to stay feeling overpowered in your life? Or do you finally want to confront some of those fears that you have that you can't really create in your life and build in a way that is going to make you feel more liberated, more happy? So what's really interesting right before this lunar eclipse is that the day before, okay, this is going to happen on Thursday, we're going to have a Venus square to Neptune. This Venus-Neptune square is part of this story of this lunar eclipse right now. What is it about? Venus is in Gemini. Venus in Gemini, it is thinking things through in relationship dynamics. It's going to be at 26, okay? This is going to be the day before. I'm just going to show you here real quick. So right over here, Venus is going to be at 26. It's going to form a square to Neptune. This is pointing out that we have to process certain things in our relationships that we have been used to. And in our mind, that square to Neptune, we know that something is changing. Neptune is communicating at 26 in Pisces, saying, yes, there's something that's changing about the kind of faith that you had in your life, in relationship dynamics, the way in which you were thinking. And so there is a part of us that is coming to the conclusion here, even the day before moving into this weekend, that we have to change the way in which we think about our relationships. Piece of this is going to be that you might find that there is some piece of communication again, and unfoldments in your relationship dynamics that add to the change of mind and the change of heart that follows into the story, okay? That follows or unfolds the story even more so. This is super important to keep in mind, that this Venus in Gemini is essentially saying, we have to commit in a different kind of way. But you are taking a look at two different sides of the story, all right? Your story and somebody else's story. Maybe all of your life you have been told that you can only be one way and you can only show up as one way in the way in which you are. And now you're really wanting to change that. But in order to change that, this lunar eclipse says, okay, here's where you're stuck. This is where you're stuck, all right? And there's some kind of fated event. For some of you, there's going to be some kind of fated event that comes up here that is forcing you to change. That's why it's confrontational. This eclipse is happening between your second and the 8th house. What you're letting go at this time is topics around money and intimacy. These are topics that are obviously not, always easy to deal with, but you are to let go of a certain layer here that holds you stuck when it comes to making money and when it comes to how you view productivity or money and how in general you want to maybe build something different in your life as far as, money goes. You might want to buy different things that you never thought you could buy before. And so this lunar eclipse brings up a piece of information here for you to let go of the way in which you view money and how money is actually shared behind the scenes with the closest people, or how you trust money and intimacy, okay? The 8th house can be a house where it is connecting us to, people or to situations where there is a level of commitment that we are giving, and it comes with loyalty and it comes with trust. And right now you are to take a look at what you need to let go here, and perhaps even grieve. There might be some kind of an ending, something that is ending at this time when it comes to the subjects of money and intimacy and shared resources. All right. So moving on to Taurus rising. This is a big time where you're changing your entire behavior with yourself. The 1st house, that is where the sun is at. It is taking a look at relationships, who you are and who you are as a result in relationships as well, and where you get stuck in relationships. This particular lunar eclipse is pointing out where you're stuck in relationships, and then relationships don't let you, in a way, evolve into something else. And so you overcommit at some level, and then it makes you feel like you're stuck. Some kind of a story here that comes up where you are to let go of the definition of what relationships have been, or a bond, what a bond to somebody else actually looks like. And it could also tie into how you're being viewed. There's a version of you that you have had all this time, and now there is a different kind of version of you that wants to come out, wants to be released. And so you are taking a look at what keeps you stuck here. Moving on to Gemini and Gemini rising. This is happening between your faith, the meaning of your life, and your lifestyle. There are some perhaps things where you're not in control. You feel like you don't have any control over when it comes to your lifestyle and lifestyle choices. The 6th house, you guys, in my experience, has always been how you are navigating the moment you wake up until you go to bed. What the heck are you doing? It's like an obstacle course, sometimes it's like you wake up and there's 50 million different things that you have to do, and there's so much shit on your to-do list, and you're like, I don't even know how I'm going to be navigating all of this. And so this is something that you're taking a look at. There's some kind of a self-control, and some kind of, even because Scorpio is ruling here the 6th house, a deeply connection to your day-to-day that goes beyond just the now. It is from your upbringing, even what you have accustomed yourself to do, but now you know that it doesn't hold the spiritual value that you want in the day-to-day. And so you got to let something go here. And your day-to-day might actually change because some kind of fated event could be happening here that is bringing a new lifestyle change into the picture that you didn't expect, and it changes the path. It changes your sets of responsibilities and your routine as a result of it. It's a big time for Geminis, okay? So moving on to Cancer and Cancer rising, this is going to happen between your social reputation and your fulfillment, what your heart actually really wants and what you really desire at this time. And what you desire at this time might be changing, because that is what the lunar eclipse is pointing out here. There might be some patterns that are coming up where there is a lot of, I will throw some themes here into the picture because it's going to be different for every single person. There might be some addiction to competition, some sort of addiction to having, fun in a particular way. And then it impacts your social reputation. It impacts the way in which you are, holding your boundaries with friends, because the 11th house can be friends here as well. There might also be some kind of, investments that you are wanting to make. You're wanting to change, your future goals. You're wanting to change, maybe even adding some kind of new technology when it comes to groups and like-minded people and goals that you have. And it just is not letting you, because the lunar eclipse is pointing out to you that there is something that you need to let go when it comes to your, what you thought that you loved, and you don't love it anymore. You're realizing now that this thing is overpowering you. Sometimes the 5th house can also be with like addictions to gambling, maybe even gambling in sports. All right. Doesn't always have to be the same for everybody, but you could have like the gambling in sports happening as well. And then, this like takes away from your life in a big way. If you have kids, then this will tie into also relationships and relationship dynamics with your kids as well. And just at the basic level, just your own inner desire to be playful in life again, there's some kind of blockage here that is coming up that you're going to have to let go. Leo and Leo rising, your career and your home life is changing a lot. The definition of what home actually is. There's a lot of issues that could have come up here where there is family dynamics that are changing, because you're starting to notice some of the family ties that you have or relationships to certain family members that always have something to say about your freaking life and how you should be running your life and how you should do things in your life right now. And it's sort of like, you don't get to be the person that you want to be out there in the world because your family constantly pulls you back or constantly tells you like no, or they have judgments that they place on you. Or you could be dealing with a situation with someone at the family right now where there is like, they have addictive behaviors. And because they have addictive behaviors, you realize now that you can't be responsible for this thing. So you got to free up your actions as a result of it. And it cuts out something here. It cuts out that dynamic. Something has to be let go. Something has to be changed. And there could be an incident or a fated event that happens where it really does cut this family tie or the definition of home, because that is what lunar eclipses bring. All right. And so you're putting a different definition now onto home and family. And in some cases, this is not even going to be because you wanted to, but it just comes up. All right. All right, you guys, moving on to Virgo rising. This is happening between the way in which you view your life and what you believe you can do and what your mindset is telling you that what you should believe. Okay. So there's a conflict between your beliefs, and then there is a conflict between your mindset. So right now you have to apply your mindset in a completely different way. This lunar eclipse is pointing out where you have self-limiting mindset patterns. And as a result of it, you might be experiencing where you feel stuck and where you want to learn more, where you want to be able to expand the way in which you think. You want to be able to absorb more in philosophies and methodologies. Sometimes this can also have to do with some kind of teachers that we've had, okay? Because it's your 9th house. This can bring in teachers that you've had that taught you methodologies. They taught you certain ways to think and certain ways to believe, or they've had these kinds of influences on your life. And this lunar eclipse is pointing out that you've had some kind of self-limiting beliefs as a result of it, and now you have to let go. In some cases, this might even change your environment. It might have to do with some kind of policies or regulations in your environment as well, because the third house has to do with like the smaller neighborhood where you live, and there might be some rules and regulations and policies that need to, that are changing, that are kind of forcing for you to kind of open up your mind a little bit more. And so this is a time where you are realizing where you're holding yourself back first and foremost, but there's more information that comes up that is helping you identify and put all those puzzle pieces together, which is what 14 has to do with anyway. 14 has to do with bringing all the pieces together to make something, to make yourself understand something, okay? All right, Libra and Libra rising. This is obviously going to be a big time for you, because anytime we have a transit through the 8th house or through the houses where there's something behind the scenes, it can be a big time. It's your money situation. It's your self-worth situation with money. Right now, you are realizing that all of your life, or all of this, time, you maybe thought too small about what is possible with money. Your goals have been here when they should be up here. But the reason why you might be thinking this way about your goals is because you have been reliant on somebody too much. You have been reliant on certain resources that have been maybe even given to you, or you didn't realize that you could actually gain resources the way that you wanted to. This can be even with investments, investing your money into real estate, for example, or investing your money in a way where you are growing. If you have a partner, okay, if you have someone that you're sharing your money with, and you have shared bank accounts, you've got shared like mortgage, you have the car that's on your name. Maybe you're wanting to change all of these aspects financially, but what's confronting you right now is you realizing that you have to set the bar a little bit higher, and there's a new definition that has to come into the picture of what you think is possible so that you can change your money situation. And you're setting this goal, like maybe there wasn't even a goal, and you're starting to realize that. So some kind of old idea on how you relate to money and how money defines your self-worth is moving out. All right. There could also be some information that you received that you do not like, and it kind of confronts you, right? Like you counted on this money for a long time, or you've counted on this particular resource for a long time, and now it is no longer available. It gets cut out. And that then pushes you to confront where you need to grow. This is a really big time for a lot of the Libras, okay? Because you're building a completely new kind of self-trust in this area of your chart. Really interesting time. Let me know in the comment section below how that goes for you guys. And then let's see here. For Scorpio rising, this is going to be a time when you're going to start to realize how much you don't open up in relationships. That's the number one thing, okay? Because there are some relationship dynamics that have proven to you that you couldn't open up. There are some relationships also where you had to move into a role where you had to either protect yourself or you had to be a lot more in control. And now what's coming up is that you're starting to realize this old version of yourself that needs to be let go. It's a strategy that you may have had with yourself that you have to let go, because in order for you to attract a specific relationship dynamic, which is what the 7th house can bring, you have to take a look at your own limitations. The first house has a lot to do with who you are, your identity, and how you portray yourself to other people, how you impact other people. And so there's a relationship dynamic that might confront you right now about the way in which you're seen, in the way in which you impact people, and they might come out to you and say, this is the only way in which I have viewed you. And this then changes the way in which you're moving forward, because at some level, Scorpio goes deep. It's a trigger point, okay? It's a point where we have to pay attention to this feeling. And we do because it's deeply felt. Okay, so it's a good time to not avoid what's coming up and to accept that there are layers of you that are going to be let go here if you want to move into a new definition of relationships, if you want to attract relationships that bond you in a way where you are comfortable doing new agreements with people, because the 7th house can have a lot to do with agreements, whether they're spoken, whether they're written agreements. So, are you willing to sign a new definition in a way? You're processing all of that, all right? You're putting the power back into what it means to be in a good relationship, not only with yourself, but also with other people. That's what's coming up for the Scorpios right now. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, after a long time of you really taking a look at your lifestyle, you're now realizing that there is one specific thing within your lifestyle that is not fitting into the picture. And it has to do with an old pattern, okay? It goes into abuse or addiction. It might be something you experienced at another time in your life. Again, these are themes. It's going to play out differently for every one of you Sagittariuses. But if you have had, some kind of pattern here where you have witnessed abuse, where you have witnessed some kind of addiction, because Scorpio is in your 12th house. The 12th house can deal with addictions. Sometimes this is also a mental restriction, all right? Because you can't quite, like, your mental health got impacted by something that you were observing, and your faith as a result of it wasn't free enough for you to just experience that faith, that spirituality. Because the 12th house is God consciousness. It's your connection, your spirituality, and the way in which you're accepting it. And then as a result of it, how it defines your life. And how it defines your life rolls into what you do every single day. Okay, from the moment you wake up until you go to bed, how you operate in your life. This is a big time for you to let go of an old layer, an old pattern that you may have witnessed. And I say witnessed. The reason I'm saying witness is because it's at 14 degrees. It may not be necessarily something that you did that, falls onto something that you need to kind of clear with yourself. But witnessing, because 14 degrees is a degree that has a lot to do with our mind and our eyes and observing things, okay? And processing them, mentally. So this might be something where you are really letting go of an old lifestyle pattern due to it just not feeling good in your life anymore. It might also be a fated event, some piece of information that comes up where something is dying off in your life that now it's time that you cannot turn back. You can't go back to this old layer. You got to move forward now in this new direction, and your lifestyle is going to change as a result of it. And this is what you're going to work out over the next 2 months. I say 2 months because this eclipse sandwich is going to It's gonna roll out in 2 months. Sometimes eclipses can have an impact for longer than 6 months, 6 to 9 months. But this particular one, because we're switching into that Aries, Libra axis, for you guys, it's going to be a really great time to let go and really embrace changes in your lifestyle. Do not back down right now with the changes in your lifestyle. It's going to pay off. I promise you. I know some of the Sagittarius out there. I have a lot of Sagittarius friends actually, and I just want you to know, like, this is a time where, just keep moving forward in the new lifestyle direction that you have, created for yourself, that you're building for yourself, because the grieving of an old lifestyle pattern or patterns that remind you where you used to get stuck, where you're not able to free yourself and do the things that you absolutely love doing, all of that is going to move out. You just got to keep your eye on your vision. All right. Capricorn and Capricorn rising, this is going to be a time where you're defining what it means to be a part of a larger group or a purposeful group, friends, and your social reputation. There could be some kind of a thing right now that could come up where you are realizing some kind of mistake or some kind of situation where it's not allowing for you to free yourself when it comes to your social reputation, the way in which you socialize, the way in which you interact with your friends. There might be some limitations or some kind of, power struggle even that could be coming up. These houses, the houses where this eclipse is in, it's about you letting go of some kind of a power struggle that could come up, some kind of idea that you can't be empowered at the same time as somebody else, okay? Because the dynamics in groups have been like that for a long time, which is where the moon is sitting at, okay? Now, the sun is going to be in your 5th house, which means fulfillment is going to look very different. Happiness is going to look very different. You feeling like that you can put up with healthy competition is going to look different based on you letting go of some really toxic dynamics within groups or within relationships that you consider friends. And as a result of it, you are now a lot more free. But first, this is going to be a little bit more confrontational of you paying attention to where friends, social dynamics overpower you or make you feel that you are less than. Where do you let that happen? Why is it that way? Why is this thing keep coming up, right? You moving out of that story is going to take a little bit of courage, but it is going to pay off in the long term, in the long run, because your happiness is going to be in a whole different kind of definition. And so really important time here to communicate what's important to you and why it is important to you, and getting them out is going to liberate you, especially over the next 2 months. Moving into Aquarius and Aquarius rising, this is going to be a time where you are going to embrace your comfort zones in a whole new way by letting go of dynamics with work and the definition of your legacy and the definition of your work and your career, and where you used to give too much of yourself to your career, and kind of power struggles or dynamics within people that were in the same line of work as you, and then you would just work away because you wanted at some level to make sure that the integrity of your work was kept at a certain level, but now you're realizing that took away from your home and family definition, what you're comfortable with doing, what you're not comfortable with doing. What you're working out here is some kind of an old story when it comes to who you're listening to in career as well. If you've gotten career advice, then, Scorpio can bring sort of like empowered or powerful people into the picture that have big impacts or big influences on us. And so you're letting go, understanding where you will not compromise, where you will not, back down of what you need to do for yourself in order to keep yourself really comfortable and knowing that you can fall back to a home and family condition that works for you. This is going to be super important for you, Aquarius, to kind of pay attention to this aspect in your chart, because it is going to pay off. This new, comfort level is going to, pay off for you in a big way. Okay. Now, Pisces and Pisces rising, a big time for you to change the way in which you're talking to yourself, which is so interesting, Pisces, because you are someone that is trying to, I've noticed like a lot of you are, big thinkers actually. And so right now you're realizing that there is some kind of methodology, some kind of philosophy, some kind of belief that you've had that didn't allow for you to change the way in which you're communicating, change the way in which you're relating to yourself, or at the very basic level, change the way in which you just, just apply your mindset in the day-to-day. There's a lot of epiphanies that come here, a lot of insights that you're going to get. And also you knowing that there are certain beliefs, even religion, philosophies and methodologies that go too far. They're taking it too far. And then it gets you maybe even confused or gets you into a situation where you need to defend, your mindset. This is something that might come up here. There might be also some fated events around you realizing some story that comes up with people that may have been teachers or methodologies that you were a part of, beliefs that you were a part of, where you start to realize that was a big fat lie. And now you get liberated because of it. At some level, there's going to be a little bit of a shocking value to this, but you get liberated as a result of it. I will save this live. I will save this live, and then you guys can catch up. And then that way you can see what we discussed. Do you guys have any other questions for me though? And also in general, like if there's something that you want to learn about or something that you want, to talk about, you can drop them into the comments here. You can DM me if you have questions, and I will always do my best to answer everything. And kind of, I might even, if you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments, and I can cover them like in a real version or something like that. We could always do that too if you have general questions about, astrology. Again, you guys, I've said this before and I will say this again. I don't view astrology that it is over you. It has power over you. It is a really great tool to understand patterns and to understand themes that might be, coming up. But you are always in charge of what it is that you're doing in your life. And this is just to give you some help on how to navigate the near future and to not let this, thing overpower you. Because one of the things that I see a lot, and I'm going to talk about this. Let me go back, okay? Because this is something that actually ties into what I'm doing as an astrologer today. When I grew up in Germany, okay, I never experienced the way that people talk about astrology here in the United States. It's where it's at today. There is no discussion, like proper discussion around astrology today. It's a lot of information that somebody watches somebody else say, and there has been no proper processing of that information, and it's just regurgitated information, okay, based on someone's subjective opinion. And one of the things that I struggle with a lot is astrology should be viewed as objective as possible to what the planets mean, what the degrees mean, and interpreting them first and foremost with its basic information and reading the chart that way. The second thing is that astrology is just a tool. It's not meant to replace your spirituality. Your spirituality comes from you living your life. Your life experiences is what gives you your spirituality. Okay? I have a Saturn-Pluto conjunction in my chart. That gave me a hint of why certain things happen to me, but my experiences is what's fueled my spirituality today, my beliefs, my connection to God, and how I am viewing my spirituality. And one of the things I see a lot is that there's this mystifying in a way of astrology, where it just kind of replaces, where it should be replacing someone's spirituality, and people get caught up in like weird spiritual discussions around it. And I just think that it becomes like spaghetti. All right, it's no longer clear. It becomes like spaghetti, and we don't even know what we're talking about anymore. And that is one thing that I want to just say here is that the way that I view astrology, and sometimes also my interactions with, other astrologers, is that, there's no proper discussion behind what it is that we should be doing. We should be teaching, or at least a conversation around it. It's just more like, this is what this person's doing, this is what this person's doing, and everybody's operating, in their own little world. At least that's been my experience so far, which makes, which makes it a little bit harder, I think, to talk about astrology for me. That's one of the things that I've experienced so far, because there's no openness around it, is what I'm trying to say. My experience, at least, has been that there's no openness around it. It's a very highly competitive area, which is so weird. Okay? People are competing for who's giving like the best predictions, or who knows more than the other. And I think that that's something that we have to break through, because it's not serving people who need the theme guidance around it, is what I'm saying. I hope I made sense. It's just my personal struggles around some of the things I'm seeing in this subject. You guys, if you don't have any other questions, I'm going to hop off. It is dinner time for me. I'm getting old, I'm eating dinner earlier now. Earlier and earlier. All right, you guys, I hope that you enjoyed today's live. Let me know what else you guys want to talk about. Otherwise, we keep going with some predictions on this platform. And I appreciate every single one of you. And I'm going to see you here soon, okay? Yeah, absolutely. You're welcome. See you guys soon. Bye.